Okay, so this is the second video in this series for Python 3 basics. And last time we kind of just looked at, setting up Python 3 and what happens when you first run the interpreter. Now, if I didn't mention in the first video, I'm going to be using for a lot of these basic videos just the interpreter. I'm starting up Python and working right within it. As we get further in, we'll actually start writing these in scripts. Basically the same thing. The stuff we're typing here, we're typing directly into the interpreter, where further down the line we're going to put them in plain text files that we're going to tell our operating system is a Python script, and then the interpreter will read through those. But basically it's the same things, just whether you're putting it in a file to run later or you're typing the commands now. And today we are going to look at the print command, and we're going to look at creating variables that we can use in the print command and other places. And in particular, we're going to be looking at string variables. So let's just start off, and I'll get into that a little more for people who aren't coming from programming. They've never done programming before, on what a string variable is and how there's different types of variables. But right here, what I'm going to do is I am going to type in print, and then in parentheses, I'm going to put what I want to print to the screen. And we're going to print a string. And to indicate that it's a string, we're going to use quotations. You can use single quotations or double quotations. And there's a difference, and we'll get into that later on. But right now, I'm just going to put quotations. And as normal, if you've ever done any programming before, the first program you write is a hello world. So we're saying print hello world. And when we hit enter, it prints out hello world. So it seems a little silly doing this in the interpreter right here, but of course later on we're actually going to put this into a script, and when you run the script you can have different things displayed on the screen, just like Python does right here. This is basically a print command up here that they use to display that information. So you can put whatever you want in there. We can say print test, and we'll print test. And now you might be going, okay, what if I want quotations like she said, comma, test? This is not going to work. We got an error right there because there's too many quotations. Now there's different things you can do. You should be able to comment those out with not comment them out, but use backslashes to indicate that those are quotations right there, and then you get that. But then you might be like, well, what if I want the backslashes? Well, then you have to go backslash, 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 and you can have backslashes in there. So that can get a little sloppy. Or, of course, as I said earlier, you can use single quotes on the outside, which is also the same as using, it's the same key as an apostrophe. Oops, I didn't mean to put this one here. So if I do that, we get that. But now if I wanted to have in there, she said, it's that, well, that's going to cause a problem. So we can always use a backslash to indicate that that is supposed to be a apostrophe there, and it's not ending our string. So, this is very basic programming stuff and similar to most languages on how you would handle this. But just again, these are basic videos, so they're for beginners. You may have never done programming before, so let's review what we just went over before we move on to variables. So we use the print command, and inside parentheses, because print is a function, and parentheses are how you pass. We'll get into creating functions later on, but you pass information inside parentheses, and this is what we're passing. We're passing a string. We know it's a string because it's inside quotations of test, and what the print command does is it prints that to the screen. It displays it on the screen. Now, again, if you want quotations in there, you have two options. You can either use single quotes, also known as an apostrophe, on the outside as we did here. But if you need an apostrophe, you need to use the backslash. So you can either use double quotes and use backslashes to indicate the double quotes, or you can do it single quote and use a backslash to indicate single quotes. Now, that's not the only difference between single quotes and double quotes as far as the outside part of this, but we're not going to get further into that. At this point, I'm on Linux. I can hit Control-L, and that will clear the screen. Don't think that will work on Windows. There's probably another way of doing it. Not sure about Mac OS. So that's how I cleared the screen there. So now we're going to get into a variables, and like I said, we're going to be working with string variables. And as you just saw, a string is basically words. They can also be numerical, but they aren't numbers when it comes to the program. And we'll get into this more when we get into math. But here's an example. So let's just create a variable. I'll say x equals, and then I'll say quotes, and I'll say test. X equals test. So if I say print, I can print x, and it will print out the word test. Now notice there are not quotations around the x in here as there was when we were doing the string, and that's how Python knows that this is a variable, because if it's inside quotations, it's a string. You want it to print those words. So let's say I wanted to print just the letter x. I would say print, and then I would put it inside single quotes or double quotes, either or, like so. But without those around that letter, it's saying not the letter x, not the string x, but the variable x, whatever it equals, which we've set to test. And of course, if you throw a variable in there that doesn't exist, that you haven't set yet, we'll say z, it's going to give you an error, because z is not defined, because we did not define it. But we can define it. We can say z equals, this is a test. And now if I print, I can say print z with no quotations in there, and it will print this is a test. Okay, so let's look at this, create some other variables. I'll say fname equals, and here I'll put my name, Chris. For fname is for first name. You can type out fname or first name as the variable. No spaces in your variables, please, and I would avoid special characters. But it's good, one of the things about variables is usually you'll use it to, repetitively, so you want them to be kind of short. Now you might go here, like, let's say lname, and I'll say my last name's Acapinti. Spelt properly? Yes. Okay. So now I've stored Chris and Acapinti in fname and lname. Now you might go, well, that makes sense, if you're coming from, if you've never done programming before, you go, that makes sense. This is shorter than that, so that's great. I can use this, and it's shorter than this writing out this each time. But fname is actually 5 characters, where Chris is only, it's spelt as I do, is spelt with 4. So why would I do that? Well, you'll see as you get later on. Let's say there's multiple places you want the username or the person's name to be placed, but the name may change based on the user. You don't want to have to rewrite your code and go around and change every place it says to Chris to say Sam if you're going to change the first name to Sam. You create the variable once at the top of your script, or you have it in a config file, but you have it at the top of your script, and you have fname throughout your code as this, so we can say print fname, and it prints Chris. If throughout that code you use the fname a lot, you change it in one place and it changes the code the rest of the place. That's why variables are so important. There's other reasons they're important, but that's one of the most common uses. So you notice I printed fname. Let's say I wanted to say hello Chris. What I can do, and again I'm hitting up arrow, that brings you to the last command. I can keep hitting up and going through all my commands here if I want to go back. So I can say print, and I can inside quotations, inside these parentheses, I can say hello space, and then outside here plus Chris, so it's saying print hello and the string that's saved inside the variable fname. So there we go, hello Chris. And the reason we put the space here is because the plus sign doesn't put a space in there. So if we didn't do that, it would be all one word, which you may want sometimes. You might be completing a word with a variable. And of course, if we wanted to say my full name, we can say hello plus fname plus lname, hit enter. And again, we have hello Chris Acapinti, but you can see my names put together. So how do we put a space in there without putting a space inside the variable, which would be, I would consider a bad practice? Well, we say plus, and we create another string, but this string is just a space. So we have one string here inside these quotations, which is hello space, then we print name, then we print another string, which is just a space. And then we say and then we print Chris or Acapinti. So there we go. Hello, Chris Acapinti. And if anyone is wondering, that's how you say my name, Acapinti. At least the American way. I think if you actually live in Italy, you can say Occhipinti. If I have any Italian viewers, maybe you can tell me if that's true or not, because that's what I've always been told. So anyway, Acapinti or Occhipinti, however you feel like saying it. So just to give you a little better view of this, if you're new to this and you're a little confused by that space there, because it does, to me, this is very easy to read because I've done programming and you know, from language to language, it may change. You know, instead of a plus sign, you might use a period. And there's other ways to incorporate variables. Some put it right inside the quotations, but that's a whole another thing. But if you've done programming, this is very comfortable. You read this, it makes sense. But I can understand if you're new, this might be a little confusing for you looking at all this. So I'm going to put that dash there just to make it a little more readable, maybe. So you can see that you can put anything in there. I can put a whole other word in there. I can say, hello, Chris. My full name's actually Christopher, spelt like this. And don't forget the space there. If I don't put a space after that, it will once again put it up against Acapinti. So the variable is F name is Chris, but I can actually put my full name Christopher, like so. So remember, if it's inside quotations, more than likely it's going to be more likely than not, it's going to be a string. And then a variable, once again, there are many different types of variables. Right now we're working with string variables. There's also like integers and floats, and I'm drawing a blank on others, but there's plenty of different variables out there. And like I said, once we get into math stuff, we will start working with that. But you can see that this is how you would print. So in today's tutorial, we learned how to print something to the screen, how to store information into a variable, string information into a variable, and how to print out a string with a variable and strings and multiple variables together. So again, very basic. I hope you found this tutorial useful. Next week, we're going to be looking at asking the user a question, taking what they type in from the keyboard and storing that to a variable, and then we can do stuff with it later on. So that's what we're going to be working on next week. Once again, this is part of a series. There should be an annotation up on the screen that will bring you to the full playlist. Now, this playlist, I'm starting this in 2013 in October. You may be watching this at a future date, but if you're watching this in 2013, the playlist may not be complete because I'm doing a new video every Wednesday. So if you're watching the playlist and it seems to end and you're like, oh, I was hoping for more. Well, maybe I did finish the series, but hopefully in the last video I'll say this is the last video. But just know that this is an ongoing series. Come back next Wednesday. And I plan on doing Python tutorials every Wednesday, probably until the end of the year. So in 2014, I might start doing other things on Wednesdays. We'll see. We'll see how this is going. I might go into 2014 with this series. But just know if you're watching this is the second video. If you're like, hey, there's no third video, come back in a week. If you watch the third video and there's no video after that, come back the week next week and there'll be a video after that. But there's going to be at least 15 or 20 videos, I would say. Like I said, October starting to post these for a month, so that'd be 12. So I might go into 2014 a little bit with this. We'll see. We'll see what happens. Because as I've said, I've got a lot I want to teach you guys. Anyway, now that I'm babbling on, I hope that you come back next week. I hope you subscribe because I don't only do Wednesday videos on Python. I also do Monday videos just on the Linux shell, either with Linux specific operating stuff or Bash stuff, which would also work in a lot of cases on other operating systems. But just general Linux command line shell tutorials on Mondays. Right now, at the time of putting out this video, I'm doing a series on sed. And right now, currently on Fridays, I'm doing a basic series on HTML5 Canvas. And once we hit the new year, once we hit 2014, we'll start moving into more advanced stuff. We'll actually get into HTML5 stuff with 3D stuff on both the Canvas and WebGL. So watch those videos as well. So I hope you subscribe. I hope you like these. You guys voted for these Python videos, so I hope that you're enjoying them. And again, this is Python 3, especially the print command. It's been a while since I've played with Python, and I've used to use Python 2. I don't think it used the parentheses. So this first tutorial, I think, taught you something new. And Python 3 is not compatible with Python. Well, I explained all that in the last video, so be sure to watch the full series. Again, there should be an annotation on the screen. Anyway, I thank you for watching. Hope you have a great day. Please visit filmsbychris.com. That's Chris with the K. There should be a link in the description. Go there. Go to the IRC channel to ask questions. YouTube comments are not a good place for questions. They're great for comments. If you like these videos, let me know. Like this video, comment below. It's been a while since I did Python videos, but I'm doing them because you guys asked for them. Let me know you continue to like them by liking these videos. Give them thumbs up. Comment below. I love to hear what you have to say. If you have something mean to say it nicely. Okay? Thank you, and have a great day.